All right. So, I kind of put down as our title today, and this one pops in, just kind of riffing a little bit off of the theme of what we were talking about this morning. And we were talking to Sadie about the night, and I put it like exploring your center with somatic movement. And so we can play with that just as a concept and as something, and, I don't know, talk about it. And again, always people might be a little bit more familiar with dance as an exploration, but not so familiar with Hanna Somatics and how that sets how that's different from other somatic practices, right? And because I feel like, I was talking about that with you today. I was sharing it with other people that are into different things and really wanting to give it the robustness that I've experienced that it is. That sometimes how you title or name something doesn't really convey the depth to what it is.
Yeah, no, it's a challenging one because Hanna Somatics, like it's the guy's name, so it doesn't really kind of like give any evocation in
Yeah.
it unless you like know who he is, or know about his philosophies and stuff. But he's one of the kind of grandfathers of somatic psychology and was an innovator and a kind of a mystic back in like the 1960s, and was, if anybody knows the modality called Feldenkrais, which is much more well-known modality, he was the guy, Thomas Hanna was the guy who brought Moshe Feldenkrais over from Israel to have his first training in the United States. And so Thomas Hanna originally was a Feldenkrais practitioner. But, beyond like the things that Thomas Hanna brought into it, I feel like there's been further development and synthesization and innovation, even though like I was definitely trained kind of like, from the source. Like I was trained by Thomas Hanna's widow, and so I was like trained as close to the source as you can get.
Yeah.
But it's so different than most things out there. Any kind of embodied movement, including yoga, could be considered somatic.
Yeah.
Right? Any time that we're paying attention to the sensations in our body and we're responding to the sensations in our body with like reverence and understanding rather than ignoring them and overriding them, that's somatic, right? However, Hanna Somatics does something really specific and has a very specific technique that it operates under that does a very specific thing to your brain or to your body. And that is that in Hanna Somatics, the goal here on a technical level is to use a higher functioning part of your brain to actually change the length of your muscle fibers internally. So reset the muscle tension. So if there's pain or tightness somewhere in your body, your brain is keeping certain muscles short habitually, right? Without your consent, without your knowledge, just because something happened one day.
Without my consent, this is not
right.
led.
It does.
I did not give consent here.
Totally. It feels like that. Like when you're living in chronic pain, it feels like your body is doing this to you. It feels awful when you have chronic pain and you don't understand why it's going on and why nobody seems to be able to help you. And you get a massage and sometimes that helps and sometimes it makes it worse and you're confused, right? Like why am I in so much pain? Oh, am I just getting older? No, it's not necessarily that. I mean, it kind of is in the sense that like our life experiences accumulate in our bodies over time. And so, as you get older, there's going to be more and more life experiences that are being held in your muscular tissue. And that's what we're calling a tight back and waking up with a sore neck right? But it's from everything that we're doing all the time. We're always doing. Hanna Somatics is an undoing. It's actually undoing the muscle contractions that have collected in your body. And in doing that, in releasing the muscle memory, you come back to that center again that we were talking about. You come back to that like person that you were before all these muscles contracted because of all these moods and experiences and griefs and sorrows and desk jobs, right?
Yeah.
You come back to who you are underneath all of that conditioning, and that's really profound. And so there's a mystical element to what this very kind of like neuromuscular technique offers. And I personally, that's kind of how I like to talk about it. Like if you go Google Hanna Somatics and you look it up, it'll be very like clinical. Like people will be talking about, the motor cortex and the muscle, blah, 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 right? But the way I talk about it is like more evocative, or like trying to touch like that essence of how it feels to be in this experience with your body, to be having this level of control in your body, you know, and how empowering that is.
Yeah, I think that is an important distinction, because there's, you know, I like to geek out sometimes on the things that are the more technical terms, because it relates to all the working components, right? So if you look at the body and going, oh, okay, you know, look, I'm muscle, I'm tissue, I'm bone, I'm all of those things, and I want to look at it as a map, but then there's me inside of that map, and then what happens when, you know, we're all of those things intertwined together. So being able to understand in the terminology, in the way you spoke about it now, it gives a great access point to understand what's available through that practice. But I wanted to go back a little bit, because I feel like I haven't heard Feldenkrais in a long time. I feel like that at some point back, you know, I don't know, maybe a couple decades ago, like I met a lot of people, and that was something that was like, wow. And it was like, oh, it's a, you know, very tough technique to go through. Right? Or, you know, like, oh, I don't know. And maybe people that don't know what Feldenkrais is, like, could you talk Feldenkrais,
Yeah.
excuse me. Could you say something?
There's a few different branches here. Like, if we're talking about different somatic modalities, I think the, like, you know, most hardcore one out there that people are aware of is like Rolfing, right? Where there's like this structural shift in your body that's like manual. Someone's like physically, you know, pressing and stretching and moving your fascia around, and it's very painful. I got Rolfed, which is kind of like a funny way to put it, but I got Rolfed in Australia by like a, you know, OG Rolfer from like the 80s, you know, and it was very painful. And to be completely honest, I don't think that it made much of a difference in the structure of my body at that time, although it was a deep dive into like kind of the somatic realms of like what my body was holding. Like, there were times that I was like writhing around on this table, you know, in excruciating levels of pain, and I felt like I was going through an exorcism. So like there's probably benefit to that. I probably got something out of that. But in terms of making actual long-term changes in my body, Rolfing didn't really do it for me. Feldenkrais is really similar, in fact, to Hanna Somatics, in the sense that there are certain movements that we do in Hanna Somatics that they also do in Feldenkrais. The difference is that we focus on the end of the movement and the letting go of the muscle, which in Feldenkrais, there isn't an emphasis on the end of the movement and the letting go of the muscle. A lot of their movements are kind of like movements to feel, or movements to bring back like to the muscle, versus focusing on the release and the letting go part.
So because we've been doing this week together, where you've been, what you're lovingly referring to as like the micro dosing of this practice, right? And that it's also a cumulative thing, right? So over time. And if someone were to take that on the same way as yoga as well, you mentioned that, you know, hey, it feels good at that moment, but the more you do it, the more ongoing, the more dedication you have to it as an integrated practice in your life, the benefits continue to unfold.
Yes.
Right. And so for Hanna Somatics, and you're educating people about these movements and setting them up as a practice. I love that you said you want to give this as tools to individuals so they can continue to do it over and over again.
Totally. And every event that I do always comes with home practice videos. So any day retreat that I do, the event that we're going to do together, people are going to go home with a couple of different options for movement practice videos, whether that's neck and shoulder releases, whether that's lower back releases, whether that's a 20-minute sequence that will address kind of their whole body, you know, in 20 minutes. You know, the challenge is just that there is a technique that's going on here. And if your technique is a little bit off, you know, are just limited in how deep the benefits go. It still will be beneficial, you know, if you're following kind of the, you know, the ground rules, right? But for me, and I'm speaking from experience here, like, because I had such a different way, and you touched on this morning, actually, I had such a different orientation to movement in my body and what was required for change to take place, that it actually is really helpful in the beginning to have mentorship or support, so that you can be reminded to slow down, to do smaller, because our inclination is almost always to push ourselves in movement. And this is the opposite. This is like more about surrendering and doing just enough that you can feel it, you know. Yeah.
Well, you know, what what I think about, what's coming to me with that share for you is, I think, applicable to so many different things in life, right? And there's a couple that were like kind of popping into my head. The first, for me, also being a somatic coach and breathwork facilitator, is the ability to move gently with something, right? It's kind of like mindset work. You can say, oh, hey, I'm just going to, I have this thought, I have this thing, I'm just going to think it. I'm just going to think it into being. And yeah, sometimes discipline, and there are those moments where you're at that crossroads of saying, hey, now it's a choice, and I'm thinking, but there's also lots of other layers underneath that where it's built upon and built upon and built upon slowly with a lot more ease to go, wait, what's, I think it's the layers of emotion, like you can't necessarily go from feeling down and depressed where you're going to jump up and go like, hey, I'm going to go way up to bliss. You're going to get the one to the next, to the next, to the next, and to the next. As you feel more freedom, you can go up to the next level, if that's making sense. And I think even in sports, that's why you have mentors in sports. That's why you have coaches. That's why inside so many different practices that we do, being held in the container where you get to be guided through your education, through somebody witnessing, hey, here's another way, here's what I'm seeing, and then having that, being able to have that opportunity, and then going out. And then, I mean, people that go out and do these practices then go back again and immerse themselves in groups again. So you can keep on learning and growing. So, people will get that opportunity in a container on the 18th to go a deep dive, where we've had people come in and get to do maybe 3 different movements or 3 different rounds of movements with us in the morning, but they'll get to do
Oh,
a deeper dive.
yeah. I mean, we've been getting through quite a lot in half an hour, 40 minutes. Like, your sets have definitely felt like juicy and full and like representational of kind of like the vibe that morning or that day. I think you've done a
Yeah.
great job with like a short time slot, and I think that the challenge is, it's for us as well. It's seeing if we can like, distill the magic that we bring to our larger, ceremonial type of
Yeah.
events into something that's like a little, like I said, a little microdose, a little like amuse bouche, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I haven't heard that word in so long. I love that. Yeah, absolutely. I think I was talking about that earlier today, is that going, oh no, I'm used to having this longer time period to have people traverse through, and how can I distill down a wave a flow, into 4 songs. And I had this idea of, oh, we're only going to be 30 minutes on our calls, and they've run over, and fortunately most people have been able to hang on past the 30 minutes, but it's been good. Is there anything else that's been on your mind that you've been experiencing as a practitioner, where you are in your life as a practitioner, right? That is kind of showing up in your field and your experience right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think that a big theme in somatic work in general, but also a really big theme in Hanna Somatics, is that it cultivates a sense of self-trust
Mm.
and trusting yourself more, trusting your intuition, trusting your immediate knowing of something that's not necessarily mental,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I've been seeing that, blossom and grow in so many of my clients, and they've been telling me, and writing testimonials and saying that they feel this sense of belonging and trust in themselves and confidence that they didn't have before. And I've also been
Really?
experiencing that in my with people. Like I've been experiencing, especially when I have a lot of sessions in a row, like it can be exhausting. I do like 4 or 5 sessions, maybe some of them are up to like 90 minutes, 2 hours in a day with
Mm-hmm.
people, doing this deep body shifting work. And I will start to get into like the zone. I will start to get into like that flow, and I've started to feel this like kind of trust of just like letting myself say the thing that's coming to me to say in response to what they said or in response to what they, asked. And
Mm-hmm.
less of that like kind of unsure, holding back, not quite sure if I should say it, but just trusting that like at this moment, like I am channeling, for lack of a
Yeah.
better word, I'm a conduit for a loving consciousness that, that is going to say the thing that's meant to be said right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. I think that word channel right? Because there's different realms in which channeling resides in. But yes, channeling that loving communication, trusting that that's what's coming through. And I think there's also the aspect of being able to hear it, to trusting it, and then to hear it. I mean, for me, in those moments when I'm in that, just like, because it's such a quiet little voice. It's got quiet. For me, it's a voice, or it's a hearing, and just kind of it comes up. And the more I get into my flow state, the more I'm moving. I have moved things out of the way, the buildup over the years, to be able to amplify that, and then be able to go, like, now I can hear it, and then trusting it. Because sometimes there's the thing where I can hear it and then not trusting it. But before, I don't even think I got to necessarily hear it. It would only, come in a little bit, So yeah, I can see how being able to drop into, because for me, that is the intelligence, the wisdom. The body is the wisdom.
Right. Yeah. Because all the mental noise is like, oh, should I say this? What if it's the wrong thing to say? What if they don't like hearing it? What if, I don't know what I'm talking about? Like all that noise that goes on versus just saying the thing that feels like in my heart and in my gut, like it wants to be said, that I can trust that I'm speaking from my heart, that I'm speaking from my beingness and not from like my ego. Right.
Yeah.
And that's becoming more and more how I'm operating, which is really, really cool. Because, and what you said before about being able to receive it too, is like in this like kind of trusting everything more, when people are, thanking me, for the work that we're doing together, I used to get like kind of cringy inside. Like when I was teaching yoga back, in my 20s, like, and people would be like, oh, that was such an amazing class. I felt like you were speaking directly to me and it really moved me. And like, there would be a part of me that was like the imposter syndrome or whatever, who's just like, oh, I can't hear good things
can't
about
receive
myself.
it. Couldn't receive it.
Yeah. And now I'm just like, thank you. And it's not this like big boost or anything. It's just like it's this like friendly acknowledgement. I'm just like, thank you. I'm so glad you liked that.
Yeah.
It's not easier to just like receive, praise or receive love without like trying to make it mean something bigger than just that, than just like an appreciation for a moment in time.
Yeah. Do you think that well, what would you contribute? Because I can say what I think some of those are, but what would you attribute to your ability to receive those compliments or those acknowledgments of your practice as a
it's like kind of what you said earlier. It's like I don't have this buildup of conditioning in the way that prevents that from coming in.
Yeah.
I'm more of my energy is like at a state of rest. Like we talk about it on a muscular level. My muscles aren't already doing a bunch of stuff. They're not maintaining contractions, doing, right? I was talking about this actually with April, who's on the call right now.
Hi,
and we were
April. Hello, Dino Apparel, Erin.
She's going to be at our event on the 18th. She has a ticket. So.
Oh, great.
Yeah. But we were talking about receiving, and we were kind of like in the terms of like masculine and feminine, there's another language to talk about, like,
the Ida and Pingala of our energies. Yeah.
So like if you're just throwing balls all day long, you're just throwing balls. Hi, April. And you're just continuously throwing balls. Are you going to be able to catch a ball that flies at you if what you're doing nonstop is throwing balls? It's going to be very hard to do that. So when you can stop doing so much, unconsciously, because most of it's unconscious, doing the thinking, the planning, the worrying, the am I good enough, all of the stuff that we're doing unconsciously, when you can stop that and become more restful, there's like more space of emptiness for something to come in, for something to be received.
Yeah, it's being in that, like, instead of being in the survival energy all the time. What am I looking for? How are they saying this? What are they saying? Like, how am I thinking this? What am I saying? What is this? What's coming next? What's tomorrow? Oh, la, 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 la. And you said like a ball, but I imagine like I got the visual of like a juggler. And you're like all of the balls.
Yeah.
All of the balls simultaneously. I can't
totally imagine you're juggling 6 balls and someone is trying to do a bouquet of flowers and you to sniff them.
Yeah.
You're gonna It's going to be kind of
Yeah.
a disaster.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So yes, April's already got a ticket. She's coming.
Yeah.
So for those of you that aren't, and if the recording of this goes well and someone's watching this, at a later point, um, Aimee and I are collaborating on an event on the 18th here in the Los Angeles area. It's called Blossom Anew, and she will be leading the first half of the workshop and our time together, um, facilitating Hanna Somatics. So we were talking a little bit about her practice and what Hanna Somatics is and what it does for the body, mind, and spirit, really. And why the two coming together, it would be my part, which would be the ecstatic dance and movement in general, and creating a container in which you have this first half and this opportunity to move your body in a way that you've not done before, unless you've already practiced with Aimee and you're familiar with that. But even so, you're still doing it again, because every day is a new day and every movement again is new based on the way life happens to us, right? Um, and then pairing that with the dance, where now because for me, when I did the practice with Aimee, is this new openness, and then taking that same energy and curiosity into the free form movement of dance, taking that into the space where you just get to look. I'm not there to do a choreographed dance, although if symmetrical movements feel great and that's like what your body wants to do, great. But if it's unsymmetrical, if you want to, like today in our event we had this morning, the song made me feel like I wanted to like just hop up and down with no, I'm like, I'm just skipping my legs and skipping. That's what my legs wanted to do. And to have the freedom to just do that, and then just number one, get all of my energy going, getting my hormones kicking in, right? That's what we're talking about today, and we just wanted to explore that with you all. Beats in the street. Hello, Beats in the street. You popped in and popped out. You're joining Andrea, myself, and Aimee. We're talking about somatic movement. And I don't know, I hear Beats on the Street, so I imagine you like to maybe dance. Maybe that's what Beats on the Street is. I'll have to check it out and see what that is. That's what we're going to be doing on that event on the 18th in LA. So the link is either I have it in my link tree, and Aimee has it in hers as well. But we wanted to hop in. So if anyone has any questions or really curiosities about somatic practices and you want to drop that into the chat right now, please do so. We're here to be in service of, I can speak for myself, about my mission really is for everyone to just live a more joyful and connected life, and doing things that feel good for you. So, here we're two people that have great practices for that.
Yeah, we're lucky to be able to live our passions in this way and share this work. I mean, I've been playing with that idea of like being a lucky person, friend about this. Like being a lucky person is very much connected to how much gratitude we have for things that, that are showing up in our lives, the positive things that are there, that are showing up, to start reorienting to not luck is something that you have, but something that you be,
Yeah, ways of being.
Yeah, I feel very lucky to be doing what I'm doing with the somatic work. I feel like, wow, so lucky, so grateful.
Yeah, and even I'd even add on to it for myself is that having the gratitude or the luck around the ideas of, the things that don't seem so awesome too, and being able to really look inside of, and that's, um, one of the biggest takeaways I took with my mentor when I did the life coaching of like, wait, no, the universe is actually out here to support me. And sometimes I certainly don't feel like that, right? There's things that happen in life and you're like, really? Okay, where is the gift? Keep on orienting, where is the gift inside of that thing? What is, how am I choosing to see this event, this thing, as something that there's going to be, it's the seed for something else to sprout from.
Right. It's a stop along a larger adventure and a journey. And there's no thing as an adventure without some kind of struggle and foibles and all the things that come along with that.
You got great words today. What was the other word you said earlier today? I liked
I'm
a
really
little taster. Yeah, yes, and foibles.
Yeah.
Very cute, very cute.
Word.
Let's see,
Yeah.
who do we still have on
April, you
here?
still here, April? If you're here, you should say
Yeah.
something about your somatic journey because you've had such a stellar, amazing somatic journey. Maybe you can type something in about how you feel about
Oh, yeah, please do, April, because it does make an impact for others to hear personal stories about that. And I think Beats in the Streets is still on, hanging out. I'm going to grab my water for a second here. All
you
right.
could think of that
So,
rush.
yeah.
We'll
And
something in
so
there.
and tomorrow morning is our last of the 5-day the Vibe Shift morning movement and dance challenge we had. And oh, there she is. Let's see. April says she feels like I feel like somatics releases fears as I'm not as fear-based.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
It does. It releases patterns around fear. And then in releasing the muscle pattern around fear, you release like the habit of fear.
Yeah, it's what Aimee was saying earlier, because for those of you that again, you're either listening to this, listening to the recording of this, and you've heard in the beginning or wherever you're coming on, that how the things are stored in our bodies, it kind of gets plopped on, and with Aimee's practice with the Hanna Somatics, being able to do these movements, and that, whoa, wait, what? You're letting go of something you didn't even, but the non-permission, like, holdings that the body has inside, right? That your body's doing, you're unconsciously. And those are the same things that I work with individuals as a life coach, that the body will start coiling up into something based on a fear of making a decision or moving towards a desire.
Mm-hmm.
And why can't I just get past it? I know I really want this. Why? It's like, well, yeah, you're everything is tightening up inside of you. Your body's like, that's scary over there. Well, when you get to welcome and be with that, and then go, like you were saying, it's the undoing of it. Oh, okay, that's okay. Now safety is accessed again.
Yeah. And then if you start practicing somatics, you are like taking off layers of fear, layers of tension, right? And so over time, and this is what April has definitely experienced because we've been working together for over a year, but like over time, you like just realize that things that used to trigger and upset you, and put 0 to like 100,
wow,
they just don't bother you the same way anymore. Your body doesn't react that way. You might have the exact same situation or the exact same stimulus, and your physical response to it is just like way, way, way less.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Those automatic contractions, like resting percent, they're resting now at like 32%,
Yeah.
Got a lot more space to play before you're in overload.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I also hear inside that you may have the same thought. There may have the trigger may be occurring out there, and that's great, because we can't negate negativity 100%, but being able to have the spaciousness around when those things come up, to not go into something so automatic and contracting or fear-based, just like, that's freedom. Being able to be with those things and then have that space to make a more of a conscious choice to engage or not engage.
Yes, April affirms that. She says, I love that. Releasing the habit of fear. My reactions are less. Yes, more space in between. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like Viktor Frankl, I think, says this, there between stimulus and response, there is space, and that is freedom, right? Or that is that freedom.
Yeah. Right. And I think, probably April, being able to experience, and for me also, the reason why I do these things as well, is being able to have the freedom to be with the full range of what life puts in front of me, because it just does anyways. Like, life is life is gonna do what life is going to do. And the more freedom I can have to be with that, the more tools, Aimee's providing a tool with this practice, dancing and finding whatever it is that gives us another tool to be with that wide range of how life shows up in a way that we feel more free to be with it in a way that doesn't like take us off of our center. It's like, oh, okay, great. I've been able to do that so much more with myself, with my little inner one. Like, I feel like now when fear comes, it's like, oh, you're here. Okay, well, we're still going.
You just kind of
I got you.
hold their hand and keep
yeah. Yeah, come
go with the flow more.
Go with the flow more. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's so beautiful, April. I love that.
And the piece I want to add here in that I think you're really bringing, and this is why I've been so excited to do a collaboration with Ecstatic Dance. I've been thinking about this for like over a year, wanting to do somatic movement and ecstatic dance together, is because a big part of kind of the reconditioning, right? If Hanna Somatics is an undoing and a deconditioning, and we create this space, this neutral space in your body, what do we want to fill that with? What wants to come in and fill that space? And more my answer is like fun, play, joy,
yeah,
right? Creativity. That's what I love to fill that space with. And so during this, little mini retreat that we're doing together, that's what people will get an opportunity to do, create new space in their bodies by letting go of habitual, tension and muscle memory. And in that new space, they get to explore and play and bring in this bloom, right? This blossom of joy.
And I love that. And I'm all about joy for sure. And I think it's, being able to, how would I say that? To remove the significance sometimes of things, because adding the weight of significance to certain things can be very paralyzing, and when we get to take that out and go like, but wait, so if the significance and all of that meaning making that the mind does, that the world does on top of us, the more we can clear that away, then how do we show up? How do we move inside of the world with that, and I love that you're saying, hey, that spaciousness comes up and putting more joy and filling it with more creativity and play. You and I have talked about this a few times now, the energy of play.
Yeah. I mean, it's closer to our natural state, our essence, what children naturally do, what all of us are kind of built to do is create and play and explore and discover, We lose that when we get, stressed out and traumatized and, beat up by life. We tend to get real serious.
Or like dancing. So one of the things I see when people dance is like, oh, I'm going to stay here in my little space, right? And that's great. Good. Move more. And then like, but wait, oh, I can come over here. I can take up the whole room. I can walk around the entire room, and I can actually start to exert myself out into the world more, flow more, literally, like flow more with your body. And I love seeing that. And I'll, tell people, great, move around the room, start, move around this floor, go take up space, own it. It's all yours.
Yeah. Well, and that harkens back to like why it's so beneficial to, especially if you're someone who like, yeah, maybe you like dancing, but are you going to, put on music and dance around your living room? Maybe not. But if you are in a space where someone is facilitating and like it's a space that has this intention to bring joy and flavor and liveliness into your body, it's going to be so much easier to access that than if you just try to jam out alone in your car. I mean, you have to be in a very special kind of mood to do that. You know what I mean? But in a position where you go to an event and that's the purpose of the event, is to facilitate that for you.
It's the container of that. A good point. It is true. I do that in my room, but I love doing that. And then it's taking me a little bit like, I'll just dance around and, turn my lights on in my room and get down with myself to, kind of get in tune with something I might be feeling stuck on. That's kind of like I could use my dance practice.
In a way, that's part of your practice, right? I mean, not a somatic life coach to be in touch with your body in that way, right? But it's part of your practice as a dance facilitator and a DJ, but not everybody has that like practice because not everybody is a teacher of this stuff. Some people are just, doing their other their other things, their other practices, their other day job, right?
Yeah. And so
Um,
come to a container, come be held inside a space where you are stepping into that space where you feel it. You feel that that's the intention. That's why the reverence when you go into a temple or you go into anywhere where you're stepping inside of that, and you kind of know that I'm here, I'm in this sacred space. I'm here inside. You go into anything that's a ritualized environment, what are you stepping
right.
into? And we've created the intention, and Amy and I have been talking about this idea of blossoming and blooming and opening up. So coming into this container where you get to blossom into 2024 with
Yeah.
whatever is ready to come forward. We've got you. You're held. You're going to experience so much release and freedom. And when you dance, I'm going to take you through some really yummy music that's going to, it's just going to move you. So, and you can always join tomorrow morning for the last morning of the dance and somatic movement challenge at 7 a.m. Pacific time.
Free everybody. So I think Michelle just hopped on. I'm saying hi to Michelle.
Michelle, yeah. Let's see. I think people I think I get on and they get back off again. But yeah, so all the information for the Blossom Anew event is in our link. And you can, if you had any questions, you can DM us in Instagram as well. But it's in the LA area. It's a very small group, so we encourage you to get your tickets. And if you're watching this and you type in Bloom as the code, BLOOM, you'll get an additional $10 off. And right now until the 10th, we're still on the early bird tickets. So you can, snag yourself a nice ticket to be, be in the flow.
Yeah, come join us. It's going to be a blast. It's my last
Yeah.
post until May. So,
Ah, yes, until May. That's right. So Aimee, if you want Aimee IRL in the LA area, anyways, in the Southern California area, yes, this will be her last one on the 18th until her event in May. So hopefully we'll see you.
yeah.
Okay. Hey, thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Have a good night.
All
Bye,
right.
Aimee.
Bye-bye.